can you translate that fake relationship into your cold call, which we don't even like to call them cold calls because a lot of them do the quote on my carrier's website. We get the info, we call them. It's not really a cold call. That's, hey, you asked for info. I'm here to give you the info. You ready?
Right.
That's pretty straightforward.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
As soon as they're either leaving, definitely price is a concern to them initially, right?
Yeah.
Always price. Price is the number one thing, like motivator. And then they want whatever the pain is, they have to like reach out. So, there's a pain of like, oh, this is going to take a long time. And then the last one is it's going to be hard to switch over.
Yeah, it's surprising to me how many people think it's so difficult to switch insurance when really
I'm glad they do.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good point. It is. It's always crazy. There's two things that I'm pretty sure my employees hate that I always say over and over again. But the price thing, I mean, you just got to address it up front. Be like, hey, Jason, listen, obviously I know you want the best price. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to get you the best price. I'm going to make this really easy for you. Other than price, what else has you looking? What else is going on? Just address it up front. There's no reason to pretend. And if sometimes they say, no, it's just price. Well, it's probably not going to go that great, but at least we know now that there's nothing else. And now it's on the salesperson to build value, to talk about what the coverages do. And you just pick a random coverage, whatever you like, whatever you're passionate about. We're big on water sewer backup because all our basements here always flood. So, hey, do you know if you have water sewer backup coverage? No, I don't know. If you don't know, you probably don't have it. Here's what it is. Here's what it does. It costs this much. It's worth it. And then you just kind of value sell at that point. But the other thing that I always say to them, because, I like things done my way. I'm not unique in that way. I think my way is the best way and conceded, and that's fine. But the way that I say it to them is, listen, if you're not going to get the sale or if you're going to mess this call up, do it the way that I told you to do it. Because if the ship's going down, to take your analogy, it's going to go down the way I want it to go down. I'm going to be at the wheel. I'm going to make it crash.
Then it's my fault.
Exactly, right. When I go back and listen to that call, I want to hear that you did it my way and that it totally blew up and it's my fault that it went bad. Because if I hear that you did anything different, now it's your fault and that's not a place we want to be.
Right.
Because now you can't
troubleshoot.
Right.
You can't troubleshoot the whole thing, right? Like if every time they change a variable, now it's forget it. There's nothing you can do.
Right. How am I supposed to tweak this? You did something that we didn't plan on. You can't account for everything. Just do it the way I want you to do it. And if it goes wrong, you can rub the egg all over my head.
I guess that was the exact thing that I used to tell them was that exact thing. Listen, if you do it my way and you lose, cool. I'm cool with it, but if you do it your way and you lose, you better have a darn good reason. I'm the one buying leads. You're not.
Right. You better have 8 credit cards written down for all the other ones that you're going to close if you're doing it your way.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's interesting because there's that fine line, right? Like you want to empower them to be able to make decisions, come up with things and execute. But then there's some things that you have to hold the line and they have to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to walk around saying I'm right about everything. And there's no other way to do it than my way.
Well, I don't say that to them. I just think it to myself.
Right. But you're speaking specifically to the sales process, which you're an expert in, right? Like that's something that you were highly trained in, then went into management for, like, what you're doing. Right. And they just don't have that skill set yet. And so I don't know why they want to do it their way. So but I guess it's just human nature again,
It must be human nature because everybody does it. Everybody. Yeah. Without fail, you could train someone perfectly. And the 10th phone call they take, they're just randomly going to say something different.
Right.
For no reason.
Until they do it, get a result. They go, oh, it does work. And then you're like, yeah, that's what I've been freaking saying for the last 10 years.
What is it? I might not have the right name for it, but we'd use the 20-60-20 rule, which is 20% of the people that you talk to, they were going to buy no matter who you were. You could have been the worst salesperson in the world. They were going to buy that policy. The other 20%, they were never going to buy from you.
Right,
it doesn't matter what you did. All the little things that we do are for that 60% to eat up as much of that 60% as we can, which is not easy. So yes, it's going to fail more than it works. If you are closing at 30 or 40%, you are a rock star. That means you are failing 60 to 70% of the time.
Right.
And it's tough mentally to get people to accept that.
Yeah. When you're in an environment with some captives where you're closing at 12%, like with internet leads for us, we close 12 to 13%, which is pretty solid off of quoted, not off of leads, but off of the quoted leads. And it's just, I lost my train of thought there, man.
13%?
Huh?
13%?
13%. Well, our total
You have to be
close
more than that.
based off of what is spitting out from the system is 13. It seems higher, but still,
be higher.
regardless,
Right.
the important thing is any little micro change in that, right? If it, let's just assume it is 12%. Okay. If we're closing at 12%, but we move it to 16% when we're doing hundreds of leads every single day, that's a big difference, right? Like it's real money. And when you're spending real 20 grand, 25 grand on leads, you know, you got to get those wins out of that 60% that you wouldn't if they did it their way versus doing it this way, where there's just these, and it's so nuanced, right? It's tonality. It's putting the right pauses in the right places are what are going to tip those ones that are right there on the fence.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then one of the books that I buy all my salespeople is Go for No. I don't remember who it's by, but you can get it on Amazon. It's cheap. Yeah. It's called Go for No. It's one of the first books I get them. It's very short, very easy to consume. And it just talks about how the person who says no to you the first time is the client they want. Because if you can overcome that no, they're going to say no to the next guy. And 100%. They're probably not going to be as good as you. So you're going to keep that client.
Yeah.
So it's a really good book. And that's the other part of the training that we kind of have them
I've told this story, the sales story when I was at Merrill, where this guy, Mario, I called, he screamed at me, F-bombed me up and down the street, you know, and I think I may have even been on speakerphone in the bullpen at Merrill. So everybody heard it. And then this guy, Jerry O'Neill, who I'm still friends with, he's still there. But he said, hey, you got to go to his house. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to his house. I mean, I was like, you know, green, just got in, hadn't even closed anything yet. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Just getting beat up all day long. And he's like, no, dude, I'll drive you. Let's go. I'll pump you up. And he brought me down there. I went, I knocked on the guy's door and I was like shaking. It was hot out. I was wearing a suit. I had like sweat dripping down my face. And I'm like, hello, are you Mario? And he's like, yeah, who are you? I go, you just told me to F off on the phone. And I just wanted to come down here and tell you that I don't think it's cool. And I really want to earn your business. And he said, come on in. Like he couldn't, he said like, you've got some big brass. And then
Knuckles.
Yeah.
Knuckles. But he became a client. It was pretty crazy. That's the guy that nobody is going to mess with, right? Nobody's going to try that attempt on him. And I didn't want to. Just thinking about it, I get anxiety because it was rough. Like he was
that's tough. That's a tough position to put yourself in.
It's mean, but I learned a lot from it. Like that lesson, right? Like, man, even the no from that guy doesn't mean it's a permanent no. Right? Any no is not a permanent no.
That's why, like, I always tell people with internet leads, you know, internet leads have bad retention if you're only getting that 20% that's going to say yes to everybody, because they're going to say yes to the next person that has a cheap price. Now, when we had our agents calling, they would put maybe 6 dials on them, maybe 10 at the max, you know, those people a little bit better because you know that the next person, it's going to take 8 to 10 dials. Now that we're putting, you know, 100 dials on someone, I love it. Like our agents used to complain, oh my gosh, it took so many times to call to close this person. I'm like, yeah, but 80 calls, like who else is going to put 80 calls to get that person? That person is staying with us. And if you have a good quoting process where you actually like engage with the person and connect with them, it's like, dude, it's a done deal. Like that person is going to be with you for a long time.
I don't think that even the transfer companies make that many dials on them because they have so much data.
No
they don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower to even call all the data they have, right? They probably do 15, 20 dials.
Yeah, that's what we were doing was before we had teledudes, we made our guys do 20 dials. And I just remember, you know, with the other agents and, you know, because when you're one of the top performers, other agents call you and they say, what are you doing? They're looking for that secret. What's the magic bullet? How are you doing it? I'm like, dude, we just call them 20 times. And then it always amazes me. One of the best moments is when you make the dials, if you're the one doing it. And on like the 15th call, they answer like you haven't been calling them for 15 days.
Right.
And they're just like, oh, hey, what's going on? Yeah, sure. I'll do a quote.
Yeah.
I've called you every day for 2 weeks. How is this? This is a big moment. Like, I don't know. How are you not acknowledging this?
Yeah.
And it's always just hilarious. Yeah. It's one of the best moments.
It's interesting though, because at Geico, or I'm sorry, at the Lizard, we could say Geico, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever.
So that it had to be a one call close, which statistically we know, at least from internet leads, like we're not going to get a one call close very often, right? It's like 16%. So, okay, well, if we know that, how do you have such a high closing percentage there? What's the difference? I mean, price helped, right?
Sure, yeah. So the way that Geico, I don't think this is like a secret or anything, so I'm pretty sure I'm fine to talk about it. But the way that Geico doesn't write homeowners, they write through brokers. So they write through Travelers, Liberty Mutual, ASI, even more companies that I'm sure I don't even know about anymore. But they don't shop you through all those carriers. They have a little thing. I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called the decision tree. And you fill out the zip code, if they have any animals, and what state. Yeah, well, obviously what state they're in because the zip code. You hit the button, and it tells you what company you're quoting. That's it. There's nothing you can do about it. That's the carrier you got to go through.
Genius.
So,
love
it's
that.
great. Yeah, it makes total sense. But honestly, the two things that they do, which are great, they don't really get a lot of inbound. So again, I was in the homeowners department, not auto. Auto's totally different. But in the homeowners department, not many people are calling to get home quotes.
Right.
They only just started advertising that even a couple years ago. They're almost all transfers from people who just paid their bill, and you got to navigate that call to get them to want to quote. So most of the time it'd be like, Craig, you just paid your bill. And they'd say, hey, you could actually lower your bill if you got a quote for homeowners insurance with us. Can I send you over to get one? And you'd say, yeah, sure. Then blind transfer, I'd come on the line. Thanks for calling Geico. This is Rob. How can I help you? And you'd say, yeah, they said I could save some money if I got a quote. And if I get, that's the hard part is if you have the right attitude, you can turn that into a sale.
Right.
If you have a bad attitude, you're going to be like, another one of these bad transfers.
Right.
Another guy who has no interest in talking to me. So that's where the people who are really successful are, the people who can handle that. But then the other part, even though everybody hates it, it works. You can't say goodbye until they say no or hang up. So if they're not saying no, you got to keep going. You got to get a no, or you got to get them to hang up on you. So and people absolutely will buy because they feel bad.
So it is similar to the first sale from the script that we talk about. It's the hardest part is just them saying yes to being quoted, right? Changing that attitude.
Absolutely. Well, think about too the mindset of the customer. Maybe they would have pushed back more on someone, but they've already got a piece of business with this company. So to them, you're not really selling them. To them, they truly feel like they're being quoted by the person who already insures them. So that's a leg up. That helps with the closure. Like I think my closure there, 30 or 40%, which was one of the top, but lots of people were there. I wasn't by any means like an anomaly. So it's just the fact that you have that relationship. And then with now, can you translate that fake relationship into your cold call, which we don't even like to call them cold calls because a lot of them do the quote on my carrier's website. We get the info, we call them. It's not really a cold call. That's, hey, you asked for info. I'm here to give you the info. You ready?
Right.
That's pretty straightforward. But it's very similar to the discovery premium that we do. They have a piece of business with us. The only difference is we're initiating the contact for the second piece, not them. So it's so impossible to replicate, but that's our goal. That's literally what I strive for, is to replicate their operation. It's just impossible on such a different scale.
Because there isn't we could come up with all the excuses why it wouldn't work. Like, so Mary won't be available. She's always like, how am I going to do a blind, all these things. But we just try it. Like, it is interesting, right? They take let's just say anybody that makes a payment, you're going to blind transfer over to the sales team, no matter what. Just freaking get it over there and just test it, see what happens, right? Like maybe all of a sudden it starts working.
No, if you get the right salespeople, it could. I mean, it definitely could. If you, every time you take a bill payment, I think there's another agent who does something like that, Jeremy Olson, because he has his thing, the
I haven't heard that name. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he does the role play, and he talks about he has his inside sales team, and they just take billing calls, and that's all they do is try and sell them. I'm nowhere near that size of an operation.
Right. He's gigantic.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the same idea. It's the right idea, except he does it with one person. And what's funny is Geico tried to do it with one person, and it was less effective. With like the person who took the bill pay, then getting the sale, it didn't work. It didn't work nearly as well as the bad transfer that the salesperson hated. That whole project failed, which
because
I find ironic.
The person taking the payment isn't a salesperson.
Right.
It's the wrong person.
It's the wrong person, and we're telling them to do it. Hey, it's easy because they're a client, so just cross-sell them. But they're not a salesperson.
And the salesperson will not take that job.
No, never. I wouldn't take that job.
Oh, no. Disgusting.
I remember I got embarrassed so bad. I went on a trip for my carrier to go to a golf tournament, and I met these two agents who I knew from the leaderboard nationwide, and I was talking to them. At that point, I only had 3 employees, and I'm talking to them about my business, and I couldn't tell you what story I was telling, but they look at me and they go, "Did you just say you answered the phone?" I was like, "Yeah, I answered the phone." And they just started laughing, and they're like, "You're never going to grow if that's what you're doing." I was like, "Oh man, okay, sorry guys, didn't mean to expose myself there." fair. But, I was only a couple years in at that point, and that's when we started. It was me and a good friend of mine. So my carrier doesn't allow co-owners. We wanted to be co-owners. They didn't allow it. The rule was you had to have an owner and employee. So he actually started first as the technical owner, and I was the employee.
Isn't that just banana? Let's just talk about how crazy insane that is.
Who comes up with these rules?
Right. It makes no sense. You still can't do it, which is mind-blowing.
Right.
But so when we started, we had 2 phone lines. One of us would make a call. The other one would sit there in case someone called back because we just called them. Then the other person would make the call. Then the other person would make the call. You would have never believed. And we quickly became the #1 producing agency in the state. If anybody had ever come into our office, they would have been like, these guys, the other ones do it. We were two desks. That was it. In a 700 square foot office, 2 desks, 4 chairs, nothing else. That was it. We just went back and forth, dialed, and we went that way for almost 2 years. He actually left. He went to he did something outside of PNC. So now I'm the only owner of everything. But it was just a wild experience at that point because it was like,
how much did you build up at that point?
I guess I don't know exactly, but I could tell you that I'm still bitter about it because when he left and I opened my agency in my name, they let me take his clients, which were my clients, but at half commission. And I was very upset. I was very bitter. I still don't forgive them for that. I was very upset about it. I know now. So probably 1.2, I would say something like that, 1.2 million, because we're 2.9 now. And about 1.7 of that is half commission because of the agencies that closed plus my old agency that closed. So it's crazy, but it's just dumb rules. Very dumb.
What a bummer.
What were you doing to drive new business when it was you two? It was calling those leads. Somebody gives you free.
So we didn't know about those leads. Nobody told us, which again just goes back to I don't know how these companies operate sometimes. But
everything's siloed. It's just so idiotic.
Before I opened the agency, I called 5 different agents who are agents of the same company and asked them what to do. All of them said, don't buy internet leads. They're terrible. So we were like, all right, you know what? We're not buying internet leads. We're going to listen to them. We're going to stick to it. And I'll never forget, I called my friend the night before. I was like, hey, what are we going to do tomorrow? Because we got nothing to do. We have no plan. We have no idea. We can't count on our friends to come in.
Right.
So we signed up with all web leads, EverQuote, and just loaded up. And we built up, we still have it. It's the same Google sheet I was telling you about. That's how we would rotate it. We'd mark them in yellow when they were called. At the end of the day, we'd put them in white to know we had to call them again the next day. And we'd call them 20 times. And then I would make tabs for every month of the year for 2 years out. And that's how I would pipeline them for the future. And then the new month would come and be like, all right, these are our people we're calling now. And we operated that way for 2 years.
They still do that at AAA.
But that's
there's still agents in every carrier that does that still.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have the money. We really bootstrapped it, but it was an experience, and I wouldn't trade it now. Looking back, now I can't believe that's what we did.
So
it worked.
It is a good experience, though.
Yeah, you learn lessons for sure.
Well, you understand. You learn how it works, like under the hood, kind of, right? And if you want to understand how old I really am, at Merrill, okay, the computer or the internet was. Not the internet was 2005, right? 2003. Yeah. So everything's pretty new. Like the internet is new. There was no dialers. There was it was push button phone. But my filing system was something that one of those older guys taught me. It was 31 folders, like manila folders, right? And they're each labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, all the dates of the month. And you call somebody with a lead, the piece of paper or the list. And then when you're done with that one and you made contact or whatever the result was, then you go, okay, I'm going to follow up in 2 weeks. So you just add 14 to whatever number you're on and put it in that folder. And then it's ready to go on that day.
That's very Glenn Ross.
It was. And it was so slow. I mean, it seemed fast at the time, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you feel like you're using this is a great system. Wow, I got through 5 people.
I'm so organized.
That's so funny.
It is definitely. It's hard to explain to somebody who's never gone through it. I'm very grateful that I did scratch and didn't buy a book because that was also on the table. You learn a lot from doing it scratch. You could also fail, but we succeeded.
Okay. So I want to dive a little bit deeper on those leads real quick because there's this. I had the same thing probably. I think all of us, right? Like everybody tells you leads suck. You try them a little bit, you don't really know what you're doing, and then they don't work, and then you're like, maybe they're right? So it reinforces because you get them, you waste your money because no results happen, or you get the easy ones, but then they leave, and you're like, damn, it is a waste. But you see a few people getting results, you're like, how are they doing that, right? But the big majority is saying, no, they suck, don't get them, it's a waste of money. So how did you navigate mentally past that to where
just push through. I mean, I can't say that we came up with some great mental, jujitsu to convince ourselves that we were doing the right thing. We're not going to stop calling them. We own the data. That's what we just kept saying. We figured out that it takes about 15 to 20 calls in general to get a hold of someone and to close them. Our carriers rates were actually pretty competitive at that point, and there was just never a question. There was no other option. It was either this, or we open up a phone book, or we just sit there and wait for the phone to ring, or invest into print advertising, or invest into radio advertising. And we were, and we did dabble in that stuff, but there was no ROI. I mean, we had another agent who was good friends with that ran commercials and radio ads. I was getting calls from them because nobody goes, when you're a captive, at least, nobody goes to that agent. They just Google the company, and whoever's closest, that's who they call. And people are like, yeah, I heard you on the radio. I'm like, yeah, of course you did. That was definitely me.
Money well spent.
Yeah. So the only advice I could give on that is if it's in your head, you got to shake it out or just accept it. I'm a glutton for punishment. So you're like, yeah, you know what? These leads do suck, but I'm going to call them anyway. Doesn't matter. I hate this because I feel like this sounds like a old man saying, but there's no replacement for hard work. You just have to call them, especially in the beginning.
It is an old man saying.
But it's true. I mean, the leads, they aren't good, but it doesn't matter. If you're good and you dial them enough, you will succeed. That's it. It's a very basic formula, and nobody ever believes it. That's the craziest thing. I had agents that came in and asked me what we do, and I told them exactly that, and then they just didn't do it. And they closed. And I'm like, okay, I know what to tell you, man.
It's like, how do you do it? Here, A, B, C, D.
Here it is.
This is exactly what you do. Oh, but okay, but what about this? But no, don't worry about all these. What about this? Just do these things.
Right.
Like, why are you questioning it?
And then they get hung up on the one person that loses their mind on them, or the one person who says, questions how they do this job, questions their integrity, and they just let it drag you down. And it's very easy to drown in the sales world.
You hear it from the team, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, everybody's freaking crappy today. No, one person was, and you're projecting that on the entire thing, so. And
it's easy to forget that you talk to different people all day. Just because that guy was a jerk, don't bring that onto the next call. The next guy could be the nicest guy in the world.
Right.
You can't even think about that other guy. I literally used to tell people when I was at Geico, because I would take like 70 or 90 calls a day, something like that. And they'd be like, how do you do it? I just pretend they're not real. I pretend they're not. The other person on the other line is with a practice. They called them PQs, practice some quotes. So I just pretend every call's a PQ. That person's not real. They don't exist. I'm just going to do everything that I need to do. Maybe they buy it. Maybe they won't. Move on to the next call. Doesn't matter what happens. And it's the same thing. You dial out. Maybe they answer. Maybe they don't. Texting was when we got the thing we used to text, that was a big increase in contact rate. We're all about contact rate. It's even, obviously we care about quoting, but we want to get our contact rate as high as possible. That's always what we're focusing on.
100%. Yeah. It's funny how that all works. It's like what everybody asks Craig and I same questions too. Like how are you doing it? It's like literally the same stuff we always talk about. I mean, there's no secret to this at all. It's just,
you guys have a whole company that you made to kind of prove the point that this is what you got to do. Seems pretty straightforward.
It's just a numbers game. It's like, don't be, you can't let the little things bother you. I mean, here's the thing. If you walk up to 5 people and ask them all to buy something from you, the most, 4 out of 5 will say no, 1 will say yes. So at that point, it's like the game is not to get the yes. The game is to get all the no's, because that's the bigger portion. And that's always the bigger portion in sales, is the no's. Is the whole idea is to just talk to someone, get the no, so you're closer to the yes, because the no's that's who you're going to talk to all the time. And that's why it's so important for us as owners and stuff to really just keep like encouraging the team, because they're getting pretty discouraged all the time. Like that's guaranteed. So
absolutely. Yeah. Keeping the morale high is the most important thing you can do as the manager of the office. I mean, there's more important than anything else, honestly. Like, you get some customers who are upset about XYZ rate increase, whatever, but it just doesn't matter. If you keep your people happy, you keep them in a good mood, then everything's going to be okay.
Yep. And that's the other thing is when you do get those rate increases or again, it's like the 5%, right? The 5% that are unhappy. It's like, dude, you got 95% of people happy, not calling your office. Like, who cares if you leave that by 5%, you know?
Yeah, and I refuse to, this is a little bit of a pivot, but I won't help friends and family anymore because they're the worst clients. There's nothing worse than signing up a friend or a family member. And then I had this guy, one of my buddies text me, asked me to quote him. He said that he was being price gouged. He pays $750 every 6 months. It went up from $650. He's like, I haven't had any accidents. This is price gouging.
It's so amazing.
That's your friend?
You, man. I'm not helping him.
Yeah,
I like, when the friend like, hey, will you quote my stuff? No. Sorry.
Right, if you want to call my office and pretend you don't know me and never text me about it, sure.
Go to EverQuote's website and fill out a form and maybe we'll call you.
Yeah. I worked at a restaurant where the owner, like everybody, once the restaurant became like popular, everybody was his friend. So like somebody would come in, I'm so-and-so's friend. They would be as soon as we heard that, it was like, oh, this guy's going to be a nightmare. And it was the same thing at my office. Like I signed up I did what they said and I called all my friends like an idiot, spent so much time to get like 5% of everybody that I know to sign up. And the people that I got signed up, like, you know, it was like maybe one or two good ones, but like the rest just called in all the time, giving everybody in the office I know Jason. Like Jason won't do like, this is crazy. And like, oh, it's just the worst.
Or like you make any of the decisions on what the
come on. Yeah. Yeah. I have a huge influence here at this company.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most frustrating things. That's why I say, sure, we can help you. I'm going to pass you off to I call everyone my office manager, sales manager. They like,
Right.
People love titles. So I was like, I'm going to give you, people like to feel like they're being handled, like they're being handed to my number 2. And I'm going to give it to you to him and they'll figure it out for you. Don't worry.
100%. So, dude, you've gone the distance. This is an hour, 10 minutes so far.
Dang,
Now,
this is like a Rogan episode.
It's the crescendo. It's what everybody's been waiting for.
Oh, yeah. The secret.
Yeah, right.
It's the tech secret. And I'm so glad we found this out. And we actually gave other advice today on the elite.
I might shoot a message in Slack and just.
You should.
Yeah.
You should.
Of course, for my personal device, I would never have that on.
So I'm going to set this up
Go ahead.
and then I'm going to let you take it away, Robert. So Robert comes on camera and he's wearing a blue shirt and this bright green. I thought it was part of the shirt design. Bright green cord going across his chest and he's got a headset on. And that's what started this conversation. We always talk about headsets and tech in the office. So you take it away.
Yeah, so we were looking to upgrade our headsets. We were looking at some expensive ones. We were at Best Buy, getting consoled by the sales guy there and looking at all the options. And the guy just looks at me because he was like, dude, I'm going to be honest with you, man. Just get a gaming headset. They're less than half the price and they're better, if not the same. And so we got all our employees this headset. It's the Realtek audio. It was $40. I've never heard myself on it, so I guess I'll find out how good the quality is. But
it's good.
It sounds
good.
great.
Yeah, it was well worth it. We got everybody a pair. They're awesome. They're not wireless, but who cares?
What's the brand?
Realtek, Realtek
model.
Well, that's a great question. Hold on.
Like half of our team really liked the corded ones. So like not the whole team doesn't.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were talking. I apologize.
I was saying like half of my sales team really enjoyed the wireless and the other half liked it to be corded in because they didn't have to plug it in and stuff.
Yeah.
Plug it in.
It looks like that Realtek has a whole bunch of things, but they're all pretty reasonably priced. We didn't do any special searching for this. We went to Best Buy. It was right on their shelf. It was $40. It just looks like it's a whole brand. I just went to their website just to check it out.
That sales guy's advice to you cost Best Buy a lot of money.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But I was happy to take the advice. Saved us tons of money. So
there'll be 5,000 downloads of this, and so that's 5,000 agents. If they made it the distance, they're going to change their headphone purchases moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's great. I've never had any issues with it, and I can game with it too. So it works both ways.
Yeah, awesome. You have to be wired for gaming.
Yep, exactly.
Or you get the delay. Can't have that.
Cool. Number one piece of advice, going forward in crazy, wacky world that we live in the world of insurance, with everything that we see on the horizon, give us some predictions, give us what you're excited about
Yeah. I mean, what I'm excited about is this next 2 years in the insurance world. I mean, it's going to be high shopping rates. Companies, and we've all already seen it. Retention's becoming less of a focus. They're rewarding you for just sell. So, the old adage, sell what's on sale, take advantage, find what product works at your company and sell the crap out of it, make as much bonus as you can. And then once the market flips, you can focus on retaining the people you put on. But best piece of advice is just, what we talked about earlier. Keep the morale high in your office. Keep the garbage from rattling around in your head. You just got to realize that those aren't real people on the other line of the phone. Just keep persevering what you got to do. You got to do what you need to succeed, regardless of anything else. So positive attitude, mental, and focus on what you can control, not what you can't.
100%.
You just freaking nailed it. Drop the mic.
That's another problem with the headset. I can't drop it.
It's true.
Well,
awesome. Well, thank you, Robert, for going the distance. We appreciate it.
Guys. I'm happy to be on.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
It's awesome to have you part of the whole thing, and great when people follow the thing and get the result, right?
Great to follow the thing.
Yeah, follow the thing. Well, cool. We did go the distance. All right. Well, I guess that's it, huh? We're so bad at the wrap up.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, I appreciate
Thank you.
Time. Have a good night.